morning, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Erwin. I'm very sorry not to be able to present this paper directly to you, but I hope by recording this presentation, it's not making this presentation less important than other presentation. So we may begin this presentation. My paper's title is Topic Modeling, an Approach for Research Design, written by myself and Pak Adhi Priyambodho from Delft University, the Netherlands. So research design has been one of major problem for early career researcher or postgrad student, because at many times we don't know where to start. So the second one, graphical approach may help to reduce the difficulties. So this is the current conclusions. There are 5 basic questions that mostly asked by the students. One is, why are we doing the research and what are we exactly looking for? The second is, what sources should be used? And the third is, what is the time span of the literature included in the search? And then how to identify and select the papers that are most relevant. And when I have collected enough data, and then what should we do about the literature data? So this is the current practice that we observe. So students always use random searching. They go to the internet and use a scientific database without specific keywords, without analytical thinking in connecting references, and without quantitative approach in selecting references. So we want to introduce a technique that may help the students and also researchers to gather up the literature review. So basically, people always analyze papers and literature reviews only in text. So we want to introduce how to make the text into visual representation. So this is our proposed practice. We will use research visualization and multi-level literature searching. So in this step, we use a keyword and sets of keywords, and then we try to visualize the result. And then after we study the result, we use specific keywords, more specific keywords, and then also make a visualization from the result. So we use, this is the open source application that we use in this paper. One is Reference Manager, Zotero, or people also use Mendeley, and we use Paper Machine plugin. Unfortunately, this plugin is an add-on facility that only works for Zotero. So if you use Mendeley, you cannot use Paper Machine plugins. And Vosviewer is an online application made by a group of scientists from the Netherlands. So if you get the PDF of this presentation, you can click the link and you will direct it into the related websites. Why we use open source application? Because we want to introduce more reproducible research, and based on this research you can replicate our result into your own purpose. So this is our workflow. We choose keywords and we use 1, 2, 3, 4. You can use all the 4 scientific database, or you can choose only 1 or 2 between them. And then we load all the paper that we get from the internet search into the reference manager. And then we try to make 2 different kinds of visualization. One is word clouds and the second is network visualization. And then we interpret the result to try to understand the research landscape. In this case, we want to use our own example. Here we use keywords of groundwater and Jakarta to see the most talked topics that has many papers and which topic that don't have many papers. This is the literature that we get from the internet search. This is the year and this is the sun. I'm sorry, should be 1980. You can see that the papers that we downloaded from the internet consist of papers published in 1980 from 2015. We can see a very high increase of paper, hydrological paper from the 80s, and the highest peak of the highest numbers of paper were published in 2010 and 2015. This is actually a quite good result. So this is the result. As we talked about before, we made two different kind of visualization. One is network visualization and the second is word cloud. Network visualization is we try to connect papers that have referencing connection. Here we try to separate a group of papers that have referencing connection and a group of other papers that don't have referencing connection. And then the second one is word cloud. Here we try to count the statistic of most frequently mentioned words in each of the papers and try to build a cloud consists of words printed in big size fonts and words printed in the smaller size font. So bigger font means the words is used more than the words printed in smaller fonts. We can see the result later. So this is the result of our first search. Remember, we use multi-level searching. So this is the result of our first trial. This is our first trial. We get 2060 papers, random papers, talking about groundwaters in Jakarta. We see that the 260 papers mostly make separate groups. So if you can see little circle here, that means this paper don't have any referencing connection with this group of paper. And then if we see this left cluster, we see a bigger cluster. We also see that there are many smaller circles printed in this cluster. This means that if papers make different kinds of circle, that means the topic is not very connected and they don't have a strong referencing connection. After we filter the 260 paper into 70 papers, we get a very different result. So we have two clusters, but this time we have more connection in this cluster and more connection in this cluster. You can compare this one and this one. So this circle is printed more closer than the previous chart that I showed you. So if we try to interpret this chart, this cluster talk more about the non-physical aspect of groundwater, whereas this cluster talk more about the physical aspect. So we can see the quantity aspect here, and then the land subsidence, the hazard aspect of groundwater, and we also see the quality aspect here. So papers in this section talks more about quality than quantity, and papers printed in lower area talks about more about quantity than quality. This is the word cloud. As you see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each image resembles a word cloud of a certain period. You can see the years over here. So in this period from 87 to 2004, we don't see a very connected topic in this paper. So you can see the 70 papers is not specifically talking about the same topic. Then in this year we see papers talking about economy, global warming, and so on. And then here we see paper about water scarcity and several new words. Not very interesting, but you can see the number of topics grew as the time moved from 2004 to 2010. So here you can see that the topic is now developed into more socio-economic sense. You can see urban, you can see water contamination here, you can see environment aspect, you see surface, subsurface, human interaction, and then also you will see words like interferometry. So in this new period from 2010 and 2015, more terms about mapping is introduced by the papers. You can see SAR is radar mapping, interferometry, and then people start to talk about the land subsidence, and then groundwater overpumping, waste management, and then move to more interaction between river water and groundwater, and then artificial recharge. So people start to talk about how to solve the problem of flooding in Jakarta. So after interpreting the result, we can see that this technique can help you understand the value of the papers that you already download from the internet into your hard drive. So instead of reading paper by one paper and then the next paper, you have a method to do a paper evaluation with more quick method. So you can see the topic of groups of paper directly, so you can choose the topic for your own research more quickly than the previous conventional techniques. In this opportunity, our conclusion is that groundwater research in Jakarta is not very much is not talking about groundwater and surface water interaction. So papers talking about both water and how they interact is not very frequent written by researchers. So we recommend, in this case, we recommend the new researchers to make a more detailed study about the interaction between groundwater and river water. Thank you very much for attending this presentation. For further communication, you can email me directly to this email or mention me on Twitter. Thank you very much, and we'll hope to see you in person someday if you want to discuss about this paper more deeply. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.